question I have is like, how many naked / underwear related events happen at regular East Coast colleges? Because I was not invited to one singular underwear or naked event in college. I didn't realize underwear parties were a thing, because they're not, are they? Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and the miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. The Sex Lives of College Girls was definitely one of my favorite shows of 2021. I covered season 1 on this channel. I made a couple of videos. The comment section on my videos about that show are some of the most thorough and just deep and beautiful analysis about the show, so it's a really fun show to discuss. All that being said, though, season 2 has been a little weird feeling to me, and maybe I've just been in a hater type of mood lately, but I wanted to warn y'all that in this video, as much as I'm obsessed with this show and I love it and I'm going to continue watching it, I have some mixed feelings about season 2. I'm trying to sort out those feelings. I'm trying to talk them through with y'all and see if anyone else feels the same way. I have visited the subreddit of the show and I've seen a little bit of a mixed reaction from fans there as well. So I know I'm not completely alone, but I know there's also a lot of people that love the show. I'm excited to see what y'all think about season 2 so far in the comments. Please let me know whether it's positive, negative, or in between like me. In this video, I'm going to be discussing episodes 1 through 4 of Sex Lives of College Girls season 2. Just so you know, I will be referencing season 1 throughout this video, especially just to compare it to season 2. If you don't follow the Sex Lives of College Girls on social media, mainly Twitter is where I found this. They have provided a study guide Google Doc for season 1, and I'm gonna link that below because it's really good, it's really well done. We stan the intern that had to create this, and it's a living document and they're still adding to it with season 2. My ideal wish would be to have this type of document for every show I cover. I don't know if this was supposed to be a joke or they just needed to give busy work to somebody to create this. I'm just very grateful that they have randomly provided the study guide for free. It makes my job a little bit easier. So I want to give my general thoughts on the season first, and then I'm going to dive into each character's journey so far in the first 4 episodes. In general, I feel like there has been a sitcom-ification of the show where it's not quite as balanced between comedy and jokes and the more touchy-feely, warm, heartfelt moments that I feel like season 1 struck a really great balance between those two things. Season 2 seemed to go fully into the comedy direction and has less of those heartfelt moments. And part of it might be because episodes are shorter in season 2 so far. All of them are kind of 25 minutes or under. There's some that are 23 minutes. And I just think that's so short for this type of show. In season 1, the pilot of the show was 59 minutes, like a whole hour. And I feel like that length is what made me fall in love with the character so much. Right away, I feel like with that first episode, you get so much out of them. And some quiet moments with them too. Season 2, it's just rushing through. Every scene feels pretty short. It feels like every piece of dialogue is a one-liner, a joke. So it is feeling more sitcom rather than sitting in this middle ground where most comedies sit nowadays, which is a little bit leaning into drama for certain points. A lot of the comedies at the Emmys feel more like dramas, honestly. Shows like Ted Lasso and Hacks, they feel like they have a lot of drama to them. And that's just what modern comedies are, and especially an HBO comedy. They don't have that many episodes on Sex Lives of College Girls either to work with. So I would think they would want to maximize the time of each episode if they only have 10 episodes to give us, but it feels like they're on some weird mission to make the episodes like sitcom size, and I can feel the tone shifting to sitcom along with the time changing and getting shorter. Also with the sitcom-ification of the show, yes, that's just what I'm gonna call it, because a lot of the dialogue is funny one-liners and jokes, it has lost a little bit of its groundedness in reality for me, and therefore has made the show a little bit less relatable. In season 1, I liked the moments of like realism and relatability that made me feel seen. And maybe it's just that I haven't gone through situations that have been present in season 2 as much. But I'll get into, when I talk about each character's journey, what kinds of moments I find kind of overly ridiculous and not realistic. And I don't think season 1 was like perfectly realistic. It had a lot of stretching and suspending of disbelief involved, but there was again a balance where there are funny jokes and hijinks that are more ridiculous and extreme, but there are also just little things to season 1. That's enough of me being vague. Let's begin with Leighton Murray. This is in no particular order. I used the study guide template. Look how pretty my notes are this time. It has her picture and everything. In season 2, we're seeing her navigate her coming out. She came out to Kimberly at the end of season 1, and we are seeing her come out to more people in these first 4 episodes. That is a lot of what Leighton's journey has been this season, and it's been great. I think it's good to see her feel more comfortable with herself. But again, this is a journey that feels a little bit rushed. This one I'm more conflicted about, because I'm like, do you want to see Leighton suffering with not wanting to come out for the entirety of season 1 and the entirety of season 2? No, I don't want to see that. I want to see her also thrive and have fun and be out. So that hopefully that means she's a little happier. What I think is weird is that in season 2, the 4 girls are coming back from Thanksgiving break for a second trimester. I'm not that familiar with trimester systems of college. I did semesters. But regardless, the events of season 1 only happened like a week before we see them again for season 2. It's a little weird to me for Leighton at the end of season 1 going through all of the heartbreak with Alicia and that relationship ending, and her getting the guts to come out to Kimberly. It feels like in season 2 she's gone from that, just telling Kimberly, to being really out to everyone, it feels like, except her family. We see her come out to Bela and Whitney at the end of episode 1 of season 2, and that's really sweet. And then after that is where it feels like really fast. She comes out kind of to the queer community at Essex College, and then towards the end of episode 4, she is out to the Kappa's sorority, which she is rushing and trying to get into. And that's where I felt kind of a semi-big jump for Leighton, with how secretive she had been and how obsessed she is with getting into Kappa's. We do get these subtle reminders of her parents still being in the picture and them being kind of important background. At the very beginning, her dad drops her off and says, go find a boyfriend. We see her after that conversation make this face of kind of conflicted or disappointment. This is a kind of moment that I wish had been a little bit more expanded upon, maybe with a conversation with someone, maybe with Kimberly, about how she felt when her dad said that, because it feels like a very relatable thing and a very compelling. And I'm obsessed with Renee Rapp and her acting, because I feel like her facial expressions just give. They give. Because even having such rushed scenes, sometimes it's her facial expressions that tell me what I need to know and leave me more satisfied. Like, I had to rewatch the episode a couple of times to catch that expression after her dad drops her off. From what we've seen in the past, her parents are conservative, and we will see how they react to her potentially coming out to them this season. In one of the episodes, she talks about her mom and how she is excited for her mom to see her be a Kappa, and we see that in her phone, her mom is written as the Babadook. It was interesting to see Leighton still express love for her. And so even though Leighton's coming out has felt a little rushed, and I think they just need more scenes and more time to sit in these moments sometimes, and I think that would have been enough to not make it feel so rushed. but I think they are building up to something with her family and her parents. So far in these episodes, she's been doing great, and that's awesome to see. But also to have a TV show, you need stakes and conflicts for the characters, so I think the family will be one. Otherwise, she has been thriving. She's been having a hoe phase, and that's been like a fun thing. It was promoted a lot in the trailer. It was interesting because she started having too big a pool going on, and she got confronted by all these girls. She got chlamydia towards the end there, and she got exposed for giving someone chlamydia and not telling her to the Kappas, making a bad impression. One moment I really liked about Leighton's hoe phase time was that her roommates were making friends with her hookups, basically. I thought that was a sweet moment that felt a little more grounded. That was cute to see her roommates get attached to some of her hookups. Also, I feel like it's very typical that a queer community at a small college has had a lot of intermingling going on within it. It's just the nature of being centralized in one small location and being like a small community within a already small community. So that was another interesting thing to see on Leighton's coming out journey, realizing how many of her hookups were interconnected with each other. Also, it was a good PSA to remind viewers that lesbians can catch STIs too. It's always good to have these little learning moments. I love how Leighton, and part of her journey, has been rushing for Kappa. And as much as I don't care for Greek life and sororities and fraternities, it's not something I was involved in at all in college. I like that she cares about something a lot, because Leighton is kind of a tough and cold character who is the type to not care about things or not show like very outwardly that she cares about things, and I'm kind of obsessed that she like cares so much about Kappa. It gives her a sense of vulnerability in those moments. Like, I really love when she ropes in the roommates to help her make TikToks of her outfits. Like, that's so funny to me. Honestly, it's relatable. That's me pulling in all my friends on all my creative projects in college. And I do enjoy how the show also like pokes fun at sororities a bit. I love when they do a little game at the rush thing, whatever it was. They have to reveal a deep dark secret, and one of the Kappa girls is like, I don't really like rosé. That was so funny to me. And also how they parodied that viral creepy sorority at the door singing video that went super viral, and Whitney was scared but Leighton is living for it. So I just like that energy. It feels like this show depicts Greek life pretty positively, but I like that they still make a little fun of sororities. However, I do wish they would keep that energy up for the frats, because that has been a big thing of season 2 in these first 4 episodes. All of the aftermath with Theta from season 1. Nico, Leighton's brother, got expelled after Kimberly exposed the Theta's test bank that they had at their frat house. Nico and some other seniors of Theta got expelled for this, which that is a very ridiculous thing. I think that is the most hard to believe aspect of this whole season, and there are a few weird things, but in what world has a frat faced major consequences for anything, let alone a test bank, which is a legal thing in most schools that I know of. So at my school, test banks were completely legal. I talked about this in season 1. I was part of an organization that had a test bank, and it's not illegal to keep tests that professors give back to you. That's kind of a very normal thing. So in this show, for Theta to have all these consequences, have people fully expelled, also the frat is in danger of losing their charter. When I went to school, which is a very different thing, it's a much bigger school and it is a public state school in Texas, I heard of fraternities doing all kinds of crimes, full-on crimes, sexual related crimes, racism, hate crimes. There was alleged animal abuse, like you name it. At no point did that chapter or whoever they were, that frat, face major consequences for like allegations with like full evidence and everything. It's just very hard for me to believe in this show that like frats are facing this level of like punishment. And also, the other part of this is that because Kimberly snitched, all of the girls are being ostracized by the frats. And it just doesn't feel like a super relatable storyline to me, and probably because I wasn't involved in Greek life. And when I spoke to my own college friend group, who I like to discuss this show with, they felt very strongly about this. They did not understand the saving the frat storyline. And I wonder how many people are in the same boat. Maybe if people have positive experiences from Greek life, they feel different. But just all of it just feels a little bit too ridiculous and hard to believe. Also, it's just hard to feel that much sympathy for the frats. My theory is that the writers of this show just have a show called Sex Lives of College Girls, and they have to incorporate sort of suggestive and sexually enticing content throughout every episode, and they thought a Magic Mike style strip show would be awesome and hilarious to put in the show, and they just work backwards from there to figure out how to make a strip show make sense. So I think the writers started with the strip show and then tried to engineer the show to make sense, but it didn't fully make sense, if that makes sense. And I feel like the sorority gets a lot of jokes at its expense that make fun of it a little bit, make fun of sorority life. So I just feel like, where's that energy for the frats too? It feels like frats are just praised as being only slightly problematic places that have test banks. Like, that's as problematic as they get. They had some problematic stuff in season 1, but it was like, haha, problematic stuff. And that they throw the only parties on campus, which again, do other people not throw parties on this campus? We've seen the naked party last season. We've seen the wine and cheese party with the intellectuals. I don't get why the frats are the only parties either, because I guess when I was in college, I partied everywhere but the frat houses. That makes it sound like I partied a lot. I didn't. I stayed in my room every time. So I went on that tangent because Nico is Leighton's brother, and Leighton is the one most involved with Greek life. But back to Leighton, towards the end of this, like I said, she went through a hoe phase and then got confronted by everyone and realized why hooking up with every girl on campus is maybe not the best idea. And she also got chlamydia, which put a big pause on her hoe phase. When she gets outed at the Kappa thing, we don't see much of the aftermath, and that's another part where I felt like it was just like cut so short. We saw her get exposed for giving a girl chlamydia. We don't see the aftermath, and we just hear from Leighton later that it was awkward and that she denied the girl. It was actually kind of confusing what happened after the girl outed her, because we don't know how the Kappas reacted to Leighton being queer. We don't know how Leighton reacted to the moment and how she played it off. And it sounded like Leighton denied all of the allegations. So that would have been a lot more clear if it had just played out and we had seen that happen. But Leighton says she denied the girl's claim that she gave her chlamydia. So it's kind of confusing. And then Leighton feels guilty, so she's calling the leader of the Kappas constantly to tell her, like, the girl was actually telling the truth. I did give her chlamydia, and I'm so sorry. And it looks like she's not going to have a chance in hell in getting into Kappas, but she does. And we see that at the very end of episode 4. That's good for her. I'm glad Leighton got her goal. And Whitney gets in too, so she'll have a roommate in the sorority, which I'm kind of surprised she still got in, because she lied in front of everybody and also was very annoying during deliberations to the leader. So I thought she might not get in, but she did. So we'll see how it plays out with her now being in the sorority and achieving one of her big goals. Oh, I forgot to say, for Leighton, I'm obsessed with Leighton interacting with Willow, which makes a lot of sense, and it's something I had questioned in season 1, like, are Willow and Leighton gonna interact? Because Willow knows the queer community on campus. Something I'm loving in this season 2 is new combos of characters that we're seeing. It was so cute to see Willow and Leighton interacting. Willow is still such an underutilized character, and I want to see her way more. Let's move on to Kimberly Finkel. And Kimberly's big journey, these first 4 episodes, are all about where we left off in season 1, where she lost her scholarship for getting caught cheating on a test using said test bank we already discussed. As she said as the final line of season 1, she somehow needs to find a way to get an extra $23,000 a semester. So do they do semesters or trimesters at the school? We don't know. So this journey has been tumultuous in the first 4 episodes. She is trying every avenue to get money somehow. And it's a really tough situation to watch because it's kind of like too real to be funny a little bit, which, I mean, I kind of go back and forth. I'm glad this show is showing the struggles of being a low-income student, but I'm also like, oh, this is depressing. To see Kimberly consider these options that just feel like not okay for a young person to have to be thinking about. And it's definitely not foreign to me. When I was in college, I was very much in this boat. I considered some of the options Kimberly did. Luckily, test banks were legal at my school, so I did not lose any scholarships, which scholarships are what got me through. Also, I went to a state school, not this fancy type of private school. So at first she is trying to get a loan, which is kind of the logical avenue, I think, for most students. She talks to the financial aid person at the school. I actually really loved that Leighton gave her a makeover to look like Leighton. Again, I wish I had had a little bit longer with like showing how they did that makeover or something, because it was such a blip in episode 1. I just thought it was funny how Leighton like coached her to looking rich. So Kimberly is at first trying to get a loan, but she needs a co-signer. Very typical for young people in the United States. And the loan sounds horrible. It sounds like she's gonna be paying it off her entire life, and it's gonna be a huge monthly payment. It's interesting. I wonder how the show's dialogue would change given Biden's plan for student loan forgiveness. Maybe Kimberly can be saved by Biden. Also, Kimberly tries to take on an extra job transcribing an Australian reality show. Kimberly is me watching Love is Blind, taking notes for y'all to make 1,000 videos about. So Kimberly does not want to tell her parents about the loan or about losing the scholarship at all. When she needs a co-signer for the loan, she can't tell her parents, so she doesn't have a co-signer. One detail that I found to be one of these too ridiculous to believe scenarios was that her parents drove her all the way from Arizona to New England to drop her off after Thanksgiving, because they said that takes 39 hours, which means like almost the entirety of the Thanksgiving break would be them driving to and from. And I get it, it's like it's supposed to show how the parents love her so much and how extreme that is. Just that detail took me out of it. I feel like it was just an excuse to have her parents there and the actors there, as well as like to really drive home that her parents are obsessed with her. And also to make the joke later that like in all those 39 hours, you couldn't find a time to tell them you lost your scholarship. It's sitcom logic, not real life logic. So Kimberly is trying to make a professor co-sign for her, which again is another ridiculous thing. Like a professor would never in a million years consider co-signing a loan for a student, especially not like a student they hardly know. And also that the student doesn't want to tell their parents. Like if I told a professor, co-sign this loan for me, and the professor's like, what about your parents? And I said, I don't want to tell them. The professor would just be like, just go tell your parents, stop being a coward. I don't know, I feel like no professor would respect Kimberly just not telling her parents. It feels very like childish. I acknowledge that even when I don't tell my parents things, it's childish of me to do that. So the professor plan goes awry when the professor invites some students to her home for like a little dinner party. And this was actually a thing in college, I remember. Like professors would invite their smart students to their fancy homes. I never got an invite. Surprise, surprise. The professor does agree to co-sign the loan casually, or says I'm gonna think about it or whatever. Later that night, her husband proposes sex to Kimberly. This was another incident that I felt was just really rushed because it's kind of like a very serious thing. First of all, I think the way the husband was like, you want fuck sometime? Basically, like right away on his first interaction with Kimberly was kind of like crass and just kind of felt out of the blue. I feel like it'd be more realistic for the professor to be a little more like subtle or insinuating, or maybe like imply something and try to push in that way. But I feel like that would take too much dialogue, and for some reason they're running a race to get to the end of the episode. But I just felt like the interaction with the professor's husband and Kimberly just felt so fast and to the point. It almost felt like placeholder text. Like, here's where the professor asked her to fuck sometime. And then also Kimberly, like her reaction, we didn't get to see much of like Like, that's kind of like a traumatizing thing, and it's really shitty thing to happen. We didn't see her kind of process it or anything. Like, I don't know how Kimberly feels about this very much. We just see her tell the other girls and realize that she said yes, and then we see her tell the professor about this, which was the right thing to do. I mean, she does kind of the right steps. She tells the woman involved, and I was kind of worried at first, like, the professor would be in on it, and it was like their sick plan. They'll co-sign if she, participates with the husband. I don't know, because people are like sick out there, and I just thought it'd be like more convoluted. But no, the professor was not approving of this and appreciated Kimberly telling her. And after this, Kimberly's just like, shit, like, on to the next plan. But yeah, I just found this plot line just kind of rushed and a little bizarre at certain places. It was difficult for me to like buy into it. The part I did buy into was when Kimberly built her pasta bowl wrong, because that feels like a very relatable problem at a college cafeteria. It's little moments like that that are mundane that are the parts that I love about the show the most. In episodes 3 and 4, Kimberly's new plan is to donate her eggs, which I felt so bad for her having to like resort to this, like almost like donate a kidney or whatever, or sell her eggs, not donate, sell them. Yes, it's like a thing people do, and yes, the world needs eggs and kidneys and whatever, but it's kind of one of those moments where it feels more depressing than interesting to see Kimberly having to undergo major surgery in order to stay at her school. At first, I didn't think it was going to be a viable plan. I was like, oh, she's going to consider this and then move on. And no, it looks to be like she's going through with the plan, especially from the preview for the next few episodes. It feels like she's going through with it. I'm just a little embarrassed as an American for like any foreigners watching this show and foreigners being like, what the fuck, why is Kimberly selling her eggs to go to school? Like, because other countries just have school that's affordable. I feel this weird embarrassment as an American that like, this is a really sad depiction of American capitalism, and yeah, it's realistic, but also like, this is another message I'm torn about. Does it normalize selling your eggs to go to college, or is it bringing awareness to how difficult being a low-income student is? I don't really know, because I don't think this show is that deep this season to be like commenting on how actually sad Kimberly's situation is. So I'm leaning towards like, this is normalizing selling your eggs as like a viable option for tuition, which maybe it is for some people. I don't really know. I mean, wait a second. Is selling her eggs why Nancy from Love is Blind was like a whole real estate mogul? That's just like kind of clicking with me now. She sold a lot of eggs, remember? I can't escape Love is Blind, y'all. But yeah, I don't know how viable selling eggs is. I remember like thinking about selling like eggs or whatever in college for a brief moment, and then looking it up and seeing how painful it is and like major surgery. Then I was like, no, never mind. And Kimberly's other plotline this season so far is about the new guy that has been teased in the trailers. I feel like it must be in her Nebo baby contract that Kimberly has to have like the hottest love interest possible every season. Because it's kind of weird that she gets like the hottest like G.I. Joe looking guys. Like, I was in college 4 years. I don't remember any guys looking like this Kansas guy from the show. Like, this is not what guys in college look like. I guess at least they acknowledge that a lot. Anyway, so this guy, I'm gonna call him Kansas because I can't remember his name. Kansas is the new neighbor, and he is a refugee from Kansas. And he's very hot, and he's also constantly having sex next door and bothering the girls with all of the noises. We see him and Kimberly have some flirtatious, like tense exchanges. Like, she tells him he's being too loud, and she gets his number that way, and now she texts him whenever he's being too loud. Later on, she realizes they're taking the same Irish literature class, so they see each other there, and she confesses a bit about her problems with her scholarship and money, and he tries to relate to her. I don't know. I'm not that passionate about this love interest for Kimberly because it feels kind of similar to last season. I just don't know if this like bro-y type of guy is like the type of guy I'd want for her. Like, I want Kimberly with like a sensitive hipster guy, or maybe even a douchey hipster guy. But like, I don't know. There's so many types of guys, and this show is just like very like black and white about what's hot. Men don't look like G.I. Joe sculptures, and if they do, I don't even know, because I don't think I've met one. So it looks like they're building these two up to eventually hook up or date or something. Just from what he said about like his old school, he's like he misses his truck and his frat and stuff. It's giving me the sense that he's just kind of Nico 2.0, and like it doesn't feel that interesting to me for Kimberly. And there's one point where she thinks he's making a move by making a study date with her, and then he brings a third person to the study date who looks like James Charles before he was famous. So Kansas tries to hook up Kimberly with the old James Charles instead of himself on the study date, and she's disappointed that Kansas sees her as like this nerdy type of girl. But then later on, she confronts him about it, and he says she's hot. And so that's kind of where we leave it. We will see how they progress. I'm not that invested in them. I don't ship them, to be honest. But I'm sure they're going to hook up at some point. And I feel so bad for the James Charles guy because he seemed nice and nerdy. And that's more the type of guy I see a nerdy personality like Kimberly with. Like, it's not about looks that much. And he was a cute guy under, like, the nerd glasses and style, whatever they put him in. So I don't understand this, like, necessity to have Kimberly with the hottest guy. I really think it's in her contract for having nepotism privileges. Like, that is my leading theory. So next, let's talk about Bela's journey so far. And Bela has been trying to launch her all-female comedy thing. She left the Catalan and all the women left, and they're starting their own thing. Mostly it's a website, I believe. In the first episode, she's gathering applications and realizing all of the applications suck. I mean, it makes sense when you're starting a new thing. It doesn't have a reputation yet like the Catalan has to attract talent. So it's not surprising to me, but Bela is devastated by this. So she's struggling with this dilemma, and she ends up going to Eric for advice, who leads the Catalan. He is the BJ Novak stand-in that is required in any Mindy Kaling production, and he gives her the brilliant advice to just go find funny people. And she is like mind blown by this advice. Like, what? Go find funny people? Never would have thought. I hated that that was like his brilliant advice that they played it off as. And then by the end of the episode, Bela comes back to thank him for the great advice, and they kiss and hook up for the very first time. This was one of the storylines I felt the most rushed. I felt like Eric and Bela had been so slow to build up in season 1. In this first episode of season 2, I didn't feel any chemistry. Even in that first interaction where he gave the advice, they could have given a hint of like something almost happening or something, and then later on it would have made more sense when she goes through with the kiss, right? But no, their first interaction felt so platonic, and he didn't even want her there, and he was upset that she even showed up at his place. It just didn't feel earned. It felt like so rushed, and it would have been fine with the same timing if they had just given a little more sexual tension in any of their interactions. It was only last season they had like once a slight spark of sexual tension, and that was it. I do like that they are friends with benefits and not dating. This is the type of show that succeeds more when the characters aren't dating people long term. Even if people love a ship, it's not as entertaining to see these girls in a great and stable relationship that never changes. So I'm glad that Bela and Eric aren't official. They are feeling more and more autobiographical every episode, especially when they're, having this competitiveness about sabotaging each other's comedy things. Like, it feels a little close to home. Although Eric's brilliant advice was basic, it did lead to one of my favorite things about season 2 so far, and that is Leela being a bigger part of it. Bela talks to Leela a bit and realizes how hilarious she is, because she is hilarious. She's literally my favorite character, and invites her to be a part of her comedy thing. So that's really cute. I'm obsessed with Leela, and I'm glad she's in it more this season. Like, I'm waiting for the Leela and Willow spinoff where they go off and solve crimes or something. I don't know. And I'm glad that the show pointed out that Leela is funny, like Leela the character, because so many times in comedy shows I notice that characters never acknowledge that each other is funny. So like on Friends, Joey is saying jokes every other line, right? That's the formula of Friends. No one tells Joey, you're so funny, you're such a funny guy, ever, really, because it's the jokes are for the audience. This is so hard to explain, but it's like in most sitcoms, you just don't hear characters call each other funny because that kind of breaks the fourth wall, and it's just like, it's a comedy. They're all supposed to be funny. I'm glad Leela's is funny in their world too, as well as being funny to us, the audience. Bela has this side plot where she discovers sex with the short man, and that's cool. The short king, the whole episode's named Short King because she is friends with benefits with Eric. She is able to have these other funny interactions. The climax of Bela's story was when they were launching their new website, and she realized their current reach wasn't great, and because she's leaving with Eric, she decided to hijack the Catalans cover, which came out the same day, and use that audience to launch their new website. Eric is pissed about this. Eric confronts Bela at the Christmas party, and I thought it was so funny when he got caught in the Cupid shuffle. That was one of my favorite moments. And I love Leela being there to commentate, my fave. So I really thought Eric was mad, but then later that episode, he kind of gets over it, and he retaliates by hacking their website. So now Bela and Eric have this rivalry going on that feels, again, very autobiographical and weird, but okay, work. Feelings are going to get complicated in that friends with benefits thing at some point, I'm assuming. I don't know which direction. Eric has shown some signs of being like annoyed that she's on dating apps right after sex, so we'll see. And Bella's other big plot line was organizing the Magic Mike strip show to help Theta reinstate their charter or whatever. I don't even know what terms these people use. But I've already talked a lot about the Frat, so I don't want to repeat it. The only extra thing I'll put in here is that Bela in the show has like a very optimistic idea of like how much frat guys can dance, because I don't think your average bro can dance like this. Like, this is like legit dancing and lap dance and kind of break dancing. Like, this is an actual skill. Your average regular frat guy is gonna be hella awkward and scared to even move around naked, I feel like. That's just my assumption. I don't know. If you have experiences with frats, let me know if they're actually great dancers under there. I don't... Again, I think they just really wanted the strip show to be this like flashy thing for trailers and stuff. Bela organized this strip show because she was like the most hurt by the lack of social life of being banned from frat parties. And when the girls threw the party in their dorm room, it was also not believable that nobody would show up. At least some nerds should have shown up to the girls' party. If you have free alcohol on or near a college campus, you're gonna have people showing up. They should have shown up just to pregame. Like, people should have shown up to pregame and then left by like 9 p.m. or whatever, and them be like sad to be all alone. Again, I just don't think the show is giving these scenes room to breathe in order to flesh it out a little more realistically like that. They just make it as simple and bare bones as possible. Like, they threw a party, no one came. They're sad now. So finally, we have our final girl. Last but not least, Whitney Chase. I've actually liked Whitney's journey the most out of all 4 girls this season. I think because it does feel a lot more grounded to me. From her academic life to her social life and like dating life, all of her problems seem a lot more grounded and realistic, and I've found myself relating to her the most. Her big issue this season is that the soccer season has ended and now she does not know what to do. She only realizes at the end that like her whole soccer team and friends all have these elaborate plans of what they do in the off season, and she has none of that. It's kind of annoying because both Willow and the captain girl from the soccer team, like, I think they're older than Whitney. So it makes more sense why they have more plans in place of what they're gonna do next. In general, I feel like people are being like way too hard on Whitney for not having a plan for her off season. Being a freshman is such a like one of a kind experience in college, and Whitney just worked really hard at soccer. Went through a traumatic experience with the coach too, and now everyone's hounding her about not having a passion. It's like, she showed you passion and skill at something difficult. Like, what more do you want from her? But I like that people are challenging Whitney because that gives conflict to her, and it's realistic. Like, as much as I don't agree with the 2 girls pressuring her to have something, and Kanan too, her boyfriend, everyone pressuring her is also very realistic to someone in her position. If you don't have a thing and just plan on sleeping and drinking all day for the off season, people are gonna judge you. And it's so true when you're in college. Everyone has this elaborate long-term plan of what exactly they're gonna do, and next year this and next year that, and then when I graduate this, and then after 3 years I'm gonna open my own firm. And people always have a long-term plan, and what you realize by the time you get to the end, those long-term plans ain't shit. And you're gonna change your mind and realize things about the plan you don't like and switch gears, and it's very normal. We see Kanan particularly, he has this very long, like kind of 10-year plan, and Whitney feels inadequate for not having one. But I think Whitney is in the best boat here, because you're better off not like having a strict plan and just like going with the flow and of your interests and figuring yourself out, because these are the years to experiment and figure things out. And I'm kind of confused in this school. I don't remember if they have majors or not. I feel like they don't, because they never talk about their majors. I'm assuming maybe it's a school where you don't pick your major till later. Honestly, that system seems better than whatever I did. I love that Whitney doesn't have a plan, and I wish if I was her friend, I'd be like, girl, just chill, enjoy being a freshman, party, do whatever you want. To be fair, I was always the one telling all my friends to chill in college. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that was part of my journey in college. Because I realized in high school, after I busted my ass, that it didn't matter how I ended. And I took that lesson with me to college. So yeah, that's Whitney's issue. And eventually she does start finding an inkling of a passion, or an interest at least, in taking biochemistry class with Bela. She's upset because Kanan judges her for not having passions outside of soccer. She even tries water polo, and that's kind of like a funny physical comedy moment. Kanan just judges her harsh for this. He even tells a friend at a party, and she overhears that she doesn't even have a thing besides soccer. Which, this was another kind of ridiculous moment. Like, in what world would a straight young guy in college be talking about his girlfriend's goals to a buddy at a party? Like, an underwear party at that. Like, from what I've seen at parties, there's not many deep conversations happening over beer pong. And there's also a new threat to Whitney and Kanan as a couple. They're kind of in a situationship at first. There's a new worker at Sips named Zoe, who is, of course, beautiful, brilliant, hilarious, everything. Again, this is kind of a real thing, feeling a competitiveness, because in college, people like come and go so often. Like every semester there's new people, or there's just a lot of people around and movement. It's interesting to see how Whitney reacts to someone like Zoe. Whitney sees Zoe and Kanan being kind of friendly, and she's also very caught off guard when in episode 4 Kanan asked Whitney to be his girlfriend when she thought they were already boyfriend and girlfriend this whole time. Whitney's just having trouble navigating this relationship with Kanan. She keeps asking other people for advice, and she asked the girls at Kappa, and they say to look through his phone, which, it feels like only recently I've kind of realized this is a lot more common than I thought. And I just think it's deceptive and a shady thing to do, but it's also believable for especially a girl Whitney's age and in her situation, to be tempted and ultimately fall into doing this. It's probably a lesson to her, because she seemed really guilty about it. And so Whitney did go through Kanan's phone, and she saw that he had rejected Zoe recently. Nothing bad, but still she found something. Because of that, he realized she did this, and it ended up with him breaking up with her. It's sad, honestly, because I really like Kanan, I really like Whitney, I really like them together. Again, I don't think long-term relationships are a good fit for this show in general, so they wanted something to break them up. And I do understand why this type of thing could be a deal breaker for Kanan, because it's so early in the relationship that it's like, if at this point Whitney is going through his phone, he's probably like, you know what, this is enough for me to be out. Already, if she's that insecure about things, maybe it's not the best. And he said, like, it shouldn't be this hard. And I kind of agree, like, Whitney had been kind of stressing a lot over Kanan. For Whitney, I feel like they're building her up with that guy who is in biochem. Towards the end, Whitney decides to stay in the biochem class even though she got a 62 on the test she studied very hard for. Y'all, I went to engineering school and this storyline was very relatable. No matter how hard you studied, you are still likely to get a 62 in a science class in college. And I thought it was very stupid that Bela stayed in the class just out of solidarity, even though she got a 4 on the exam they showed. I honestly don't think Whitney should be taking biochem either. I know that's what everyone has been telling her. It's better to just keep your GPA up than just challenge yourself for funsies. I think once you start taking hits to your GPA, you start to realize like, oh my god, I should have taken all the easy classes. But I understand. She's trying to find her passion, and maybe she will find something here. There was one line where Whitney said like, I love learning things in this biochem class. That's such a refreshing line for American teen media. Like, I don't think I've heard I love learning in any teen movie or TV show I have watched in my entire life. So I like that they are acknowledging that, you know, the academics part of college still exists to these characters, because it does, and it's important. It seems like they're building up Whitney with this guy in biochem class that's always annoyed with Whitney and Bela talking, which, yeah, Whitney and Bela talking is annoying. Like, I'm kind of on that guy's side. But I don't like that they're making this guy have, like, tension with Whitney. I feel like they're building up something. This guy shouldn't be with anybody. He's obnoxious in the way he shushes. As much as I'm on his side, TBD what they're gonna do with Whitney and this guy. Again, hopefully it's nothing long term and it's just kind of like a lesson for her to learn or something and move on. So that was our last journey. My final thoughts on the season are mixed, as you have gathered. I love some things, I don't like some things, and I'm in the middle of some other things. Let me know what you think so far of season 2 in the comments below. I will come back to update y'all on the rest of the season. I'm excited to discuss and see where things go. I'm still very excited to watch every Thursday. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos once or twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. You can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.